So, hey, this is nuts, but I have found not one, but two people in our city just really not all that nuts about the way the hockey team has started off. Good morning to you. Good Thursday morning. I'm Dan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates in the same place that you found this. It's Penguins versus Panthers tonight in Sunrise, Florida. That's a 7:08 p.m. face-off against the two-time defending champs, who will enter the game, I guess you could say, as underdogs, since the Penguins are 5-2 and the Panthers are 4-4. But I'm kidding, of course. Either that, or I'm just kind of falling into line. Meaning with how the top two hockey people in the operation itself seem to feel about this start. The other night, after the Penguins blew out the Canucks 5-1, I asked Dan Muse just if there's been anything at all to date that's been a pleasant surprise to him, something that for all his preparation he couldn't have seen coming amid this 5-2 start. Here's the whole thing. Dan, in general, over the course of the 7 games that you've played, is there a part or an aspect of your team's play that has been maybe a pleasant surprise to you, something that no matter how much you prepared as head coach that you didn't see coming?
No.
I mean that in a good way since you're 5-2. So.
Yeah. No, I think, you know what, right now it's... I mean, every night we're early in the season, and so I think that you're seeing things start to continue to build. Different parts of our game that we want to, continue to see improvements on, and so I think it hasn't been necessarily one thing in particular. I think we've seen some growth in the areas across the game on the defensive side. I think there's still work to be done, but I think you're seeing guys are closing space a little bit quicker there in the D zone, getting stops. There were some times I thought in the third period especially where it was definitely better, and I think the same thing on the offensive side. So I think I wouldn't pinpoint one particular thing. I think at this point in the year, we want to just see that there's steps that are being taken. And every night, you go through the games recently too, the games have all been a little bit different, and that's to be expected early in the season, and I think that's a good thing too. You play different opponents, play a different style, and so it might look a little bit different from night to night, and then as you go through, new things are going to come up that we're going to want to make sure that we're continuing to grow and get better in. And so I think the biggest thing for me right now is just, that we're seeing continued growth at this point in the year.
Okay, so there's nothing wrong with that answer. Hear me out. I've got more. Kyle Dubas yesterday did his semi-regular show that he does with one of the Penguins broadcasters, and Dubas was asked something similar, just, hey, this is great, right? And Dubas's answer, I can't play it for you because it's their property, but reading it off here, some of it. He said, I think the thing that's been impressive, and I think that's the cause of the most optimism for me, is that in the game in Anaheim, I thought we played very well at 5-on-5. Special teams weren't great. We took a penalty at the end. They capitalized. And then we didn't start off the game great in LA, but we were able to claw our way back into it and find a way to win. And San Jose, with a chance to kind of win the trip per se or win the series, to take 2 of 3 games, great performance from Tristan Jarry, and to be able to pull through and stay with it. So, to me, that's the cause for the greatest amount of optimism when it comes to the group so far, is that it hasn't always been pretty. I think there's a lot to like on the tape and from every game that we continue to clean up, and Dan, the coaching staff, are on that. I think for me, it means there's a massive amount of room for us to continue to improve and get better. He goes on to praise the Blake Lizotte, Connor Dewar, Noel Acciari line for their play on the California trip, and then the big shift they had against Vancouver a couple of nights ago. But again, says of that win against the Canucks, and I quote, I didn't think anything was just didn't think it was a very good hockey game, right? Neither team, they scored off the rush on the second shift, and then, the game is a bit of a jumbled mess. And listen, you guys get the idea here, right? There's a couple of different things I believe in play. One, and this is smart, they don't want to build up anybody's hopes. The expectations on the outside being what they are, their own internal reactions to the expectations on the outside being what they are, there's still a medium in there somewhere for these guys. Because I can envision a scenario, and I don't have to guess at this because Dubas kind of hinted at this whenever we spoke a couple of weeks ago, in which the city and everybody gets excessively excited about a strong start that might not have a solid enough foundation to it to genuinely commit to. I brought up something similar earlier this week on this very program, where I said you're going to need not just more goals than the other team, you're going to need a whole lot of metrics. You're going to need a whole lot of evidence to convince, not just those of us who watch, but the people who are running the team to say, hey, let's really push on this. Or let's at least a little bit push on this. So it's been a weird scene in that way. You ask them questions as a reporter that you're used to getting answers to that are like, yeah, the guys have been great. We're really excited about this. We hope the whole city is. And you're getting the polar opposite of that, which is why, and I'm just going to be honest with you on this, when I've been doing my interviews on the scene, and I'm asking questions about the way the team is playing, I'm not wasting my time with them. I'm going to the guys who are going out on the ice and making it happen. They are pushing to win these games right now. They are pushing, and they have said so, to get back to the Stanley Cup playoffs. At some point or other, depending on how this goes, these two train tracks are going to have to converge and merge and move exactly in the same direction for exactly the same reasons. When we come back, J1Q. For those of you who are doing real work in construction, in a warehouse, if you're a mechanic, you want reliable, comfortable gear to help you perform well on the job. Brunt Workwear's got you. They've got waterproof boots, safety toe, soft toe, pull-on, lace-up, whatever you need. You can wear them to work, and if they're not right for you, send them back. I don't know of any other brand doing that. Brunt was tired of the workwear brands out there cutting corners. You work too hard to be stuck in uncomfortable boots that don't hold up. So they built something better. Boots that are insanely comfortable and built for any job site. For a limited time, our listeners get $10 off. Just head to bruntworkwear.com. Use the code DK Sports and you're good to go. After you order, they'll ask you where you heard about Brunt. Do us a favor here at DK Pittsburgh Sports and tell them it was from this show. Today's J1Q comes from Kirk, who asks, given the current success of the Penguins, DK, do you think holding on to the $13 million in available cap space is a strategic move on Kyle Dubas' part, perhaps for a late season ad? I do, but maybe not the way you're thinking, Kirk. See, I didn't bring this up in the opening segment, but I could have. When Dubas is saying not once but twice that the Blake Lizotte, Connor Dewar, Noel Acciari line is great. Listen, they had themselves a nice trip. They had themselves a really pivotal shift against Vancouver a couple nights ago. But when you're doing that, when you're bringing them up and you don't mention like anybody else, regardless of what your intention was, you're maybe even subconsciously letting out that, man, I wish somebody would come along and trade for Acciari. I really need to move that contract off the books. I really need to free up space for one of these kids from Wilkes-Barre. That's what that sounds like to me. And everything that I'm hearing from both Dubas and Dan Muse, very strongly suggests that amid a 5-2 start, they're not about to change anything about their mindset. And I'm not saying that they should. Not yet. Not even a little bit. For that matter, I'm also not of the opinion that they should be mortgaging any facet of their future to get into the playoff season. If you make some kind of exchange that involves eating up somebody's contract or contracts that they don't want, you can do that. It doesn't have to be a superstar. It just has to be somebody who's better than what you have on your current roster. When it comes to left-handed defense, that really shouldn't be much of a reach. Nobody's expecting a 25-year-old Nicholas Lidstrom to come along. What's more, it can and probably should be somebody who's a one-year rental. There's no reason to commit future cap space to such a player. Now, I've read in the comments on the DK Pittsburgh Sports app, well, give me a list. Who are these players? Nobody knows who they are right now. Nobody does. Nobody knows who's going to be in or out of the playoffs, who's going to be in or out of the picture in terms of wanting or needing to move a bunch of players that at the beginning of this season, they never would have dreamed they'd consider expendable. You just don't know these things in advance. Not everything is some Canadian rumor site that can just whip up lists on this stuff, and some people take them seriously. But if you're going to ask me for a list of left-handed defensemen who are better than the ones that the Penguins are putting out there right now, that's a really long list. And you can find ways to make trades for them if and when it comes to that. I first want to see Owen Pickering get a chance, just for the record. So do I think the $13 million in cap space is a strategic move on Dubas' part to load up the team late if it comes to that? No, not primarily, but I do believe it came up. Because I'm going to keep repeating for you that none other than Sidney Crosby blurted out way back in training camp that money is sitting there and that something could be done with it. And that tells me that it came up at some point in some form. And that, if it's the case, would have been the right thing to do on Dubas' part, considering Sid was the one who took these massive discounts, and he really did, so that the team continues to spend up to the cap as it's done throughout his tenure. Make no mistake, in a lot of ways, this team, and Dubas in particular, is accountable to Sid in that one specific way. Also, and while I'm on this subject, if this team gets sold, you'd better believe the new ownership isn't going to let $13 million in cap space just sit around. I appreciate the question. Really good one. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Penguins. We'll be back with another one of these tomorrow. And don't forget, if you want to follow our coverage from Sunrise, Florida, where our beat writer Taylor Haas is covering the morning skate, the pregame warm-ups, the everything. Her coverage is unparalleled. You can follow it all live on our app, the DK Pittsburgh Sports app. Download it for free into your Apple or Android device. You'll open it up. You'll see a bunch of ads. You'll see that you can't comment. You won't like it. That's when you email me. That's when you send just a quick shout to dk@dkpittsburghsports.com. That's my actual email. I'll be the one responding to you when I get a chance. And I'll offer you a massive discount that I really think you can't say no to, and hook you up with a much better version of that app. It's the fun way, not to mention informed way, to follow the Penguins. Nobody covers them like we do. Hope to see everybody back here again tomorrow.